Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore.
Thank you for listening to another edition of Something Came from Baltimore. I'm your host, Tom Gouker, and today we have Anthony Fitzwater on the phone. He is the owner of the Fitzwater Investigation, and he specializes in the paranormal. In simple terms, Anthony is a Ghostbuster. We'll chat with him tonight and learn more about this subject. We're calling this episode Walking with a Ghost. Thank you, Anthony Fitzwater, for joining me on Something Came from Baltimore.
Thank you.
Can you explain to the audience why someone would need your services?
Most of the time, I'm called by either a business owner or a family member. Basically, they're having problems in their house, or their children are being terrified by something, or events are happening in their house which is driving them crazy, or they're about to be threatened to leave their house, and that's when I get called.
What are the situations that people experience that they would call you?
Usually there's a whole list of them. Usually they hear voices. Things are moving in the house. They see shadows moving around the house. Their pets are being disturbed. Kids are complaining about seeing people and are terrified in general. Those are the usual. There are knocks and things are being banged and stuff like that.
So when you accept a case, what kind of skills are you bringing, or what is in your bag of tricks? What are you bringing to the table when you go there?
I have an open mind, and basically I'm also analytical, and I bring equipment with me at all times. I'm always wearing a point of view camera, a thermal camera in my pocket, a digital recorder that's always running. And basically, I have an open mind, and I'm paying attention to my surroundings completely to pick up any type of anonymous readings or spirits or voices. Basically, my basic skill set is I pay attention to my surrounding completely. That way, I'm blocked out from anything that could be happening that's outside the house, and I'm paying attention to what exactly is my responsibility at the time.
But being clairvoyant seems to be really important. Do you feel that you have a level of clairvoyancy, and do you find it strong?
I have no level of clairvoyancy at all. Okay. I'm hypersensitive ears and nose, and I'm sensitive to energy. I don't see ghosts, but I can hear them and feel them. I do not have any magical skills at all. No clairvoyant skills, no telepathic skills, no psychic skills at all.
When you talk about ghosts, is this considered dark energy?
Not all the time. Most ghosts are selfish. Every ghost is selfish. And then you do have the variety of evil spirits that are hostile to the living. Most ghosts are just basically selfish, and they just want what they want. And they usually ignore us unless we do something to them.
What do they want?
Some ghosts want answers. Some ghosts need help. Some ghosts need somebody to talk to. And then some ghosts are just tormenting other ghosts, and that's why I get called by the other ghosts seeking release from the torment of the other spirits.
So, okay, now we live on the East Coast, so these houses are really old. So they're going to be filled with generations and generations of people living there. And there is a possibility that people could die there in the house. Is this where the spirits are coming from?
I recently had an investigation in Cumberland, Maryland, where it was a multi-generational haunting, meaning there were spirits all the way back to the Civil War and slavery, all the way to the presence in the 60s. So the ghosts live in a time level that we don't have, and so there could be multiple spirits in one house of different time periods.
Now I find this fascinating. How do you identify that there's multiple generation ghosts in one house?
Usually the spirits will communicate with me and tell me exactly who and what they are and what time period they died and what life that they had at the time. So that way I will know exactly what the time period that they're living in.
Do you feel that people are they dying a horrific kind of death, or by gunshot or some sort, or do you feel that they just weren't prepared to pass?
There's several different type of ghosts or spirits. You have your violent spirits that basically have been harmed in some horrible manner, like shot or brutalized. Then you have spirits who have committed suicide, and you have spirits who missed that one moment where that true afterlife comes from them at the end, and so they become lost. And then you have willful spirits who see the afterlife and just want to stay on our plane.
So are you a Christian?
No, I am a Druid.
Okay.
I'm an ancient earth religion. Far before the Christians came into being.
I have friends who are Wiccans. Is that something that is relatable to a Druid?
They're predate Wiccans. Druids are very old. They predate the neo-pagans.
I don't know what a druid does. So, what would you say that what is the core belief for a druid, and like the principles of what they stand for, and how does that affect your business?
Druids are a nature-based religion where basically the fundamental thing is that life and death and rebirth are all in a cycle, and our responsibility is to adhere to that cycle, to promote life, to help people when they die, but we have no control over ghosts and spirits. We do have spirit control over demons, but limited experiences. But mostly my religion is based off the cycle of life and death.
So the reason I asked you about being Christian is, they obviously have their own beliefs, but you're talking about the cycle of life. You're talking about reincarnation, or is that something that you believe in? That your spirit is using different vessels, different bodies?
That's correct. When a druid dies, usually they were reborn to the next life. I mean, they go learn at the what we call the happy forest. The great forest, and we sit there and we prepare ourselves for the next journey, and we learn and come back.
When on your Facebook page you have a partner that just passed, but you're having visions of him now. Has he successfully passed, or is it something that you're going through in your grief cycle where you're just conjuring up maybe some past experiences with him?
Yes, George did die a year ago. And the main cycles that I'm having with him is my grieving cycle, and I've recently had a dream about him, but I believe it's connected to the two cursed items I took out of the house, and I forgot they're in my car. So I had a dream of him last night in the car.
They were cursed items from the car that you brought in the car?
Yes, I took them from the case in Cumberland, Maryland. They're very cursed items, and they're in the car. And ever since I've had them in the car, and I have a parking slab in the outside of my house that's not on my property line kind of thing, so they don't affect my house. But while I'm in the car, they have affected my sleep.
What are they?
One is a bust of Jesus, believe it or not, and another one is a belt of some sort of former wrestler.
Okay, and are these past items that your partner had?
No, they have nothing to do with my husband.
Oh, okay. How do you know they're cursed?
When I put a thermal camera on them, they're hot.
Okay.
And my millimeter detects energy coming from them pulsating in and out. I have equipment that I take with me, a point of view camera that I always run, a digital recorder so I can hear voices on real time. I have a thermal camera always on me for that reason, because I can't see things in the thermal. I don't see ghosts, but I know when they're around because I have certain symptoms that my body produces that I know when I'm in the proper environment.
What are the symptoms?
Oh, it's going to be strange. My forearms tingle as if the hair's going up and down on the arm, only in one specific spot of the arm. My right ear is humming, so I know that there's EMF in the air and it tracks it with it. And I also have an extreme sense of paranoia, like people are watching me.
You are talking. Right. You're talking to the ghost. What do you when you talk to them? What are you saying? Are you just telling it's time to leave, or you acknowledge their whatever they're saying? And
usually, how can I put this? I'm usually a counselor of sorts for them. I listen to what they're saying and I try to find a solution for them. I've always used diplomacy first before anything becomes aggressive or angry.
What is their grievance? You're saying they're selfish, but what are some of the grievances that they have?
Like why they're here, or?
Well, I mean, you're having a conversation with them. You're trying to be diplomatic and kind of.
Well, sometimes when you're talking with them, they give exact answers and what they really need. And so you're able to solve their problems. Some of them hem and haw, and where you actually have to drag the information out of them to finally, just like humans, finally be able to help them. And then you've had the hostile spirits who just want to attack you and abuse you. They're the ones who are usually full frontal in attack mode, or they'll wait for the appropriate moment to get you when they think that you're vulnerable.
Have you ever been scared working on one of your cases?
Only one. I dealt with an extremely ancient spirit who had been locked in a room for 1,000 years. And so he hasn't seen another human being for 1,000 years. And he hasn't remembered how to communicate like we do speaking wise. He tried to strangle me, and that freaked me out.
Did you ever get to, I know that sounds like a dumb question, but have you ever talked to someone who doesn't speak your language?
Actually, it seems I actually am multi-language. I myself speak multiple languages, but when it comes to spirits who are speaking or are from another nationality that I am, they speak what I consider a common tongue that I can understand what they're talking about. They're actually speaking to me on a level that is common to everybody's needs. And it appears to be English to me, but it's not really. It's probably their language, but somehow or the other, I managed to be able to communicate with them.
You know, we had such a checkered past in our life with the American Indians, you know, being slaughtered, and Maryland has been a port for a lot of slave trade and a lot of sorrow. Do you find that you have a lot of experiences with people who, you know, terrible experiences, American Indians or Africans who have just been brought over? Are people stuck in that time period?
Yes, I've have recordings on my of one in particular in one site where there were a bunch of Afro-Americans chanting to me. And I got it on audio on one of my audio videos on my YouTube page. I have ran into at least 4 different spirits that were enslaved in some manner and they need release. Yes, I've dealt with a lot of slavery and pain and suffering. Usually when I'm dealing with slavery ghosts that have been slaves, usually it's a vengeance cycle that they need resolving. I usually don't. Sometimes I get the feeling of how they died, but not always. But most of the time, it's what they need.
Do you feel that the Baltimore area is filled with a lot of spirits, or you feel like you're getting a lot of work?
Oh, yeah. Oh, in the 7 years that I have been doing my job, I have 75 investigations. But effectively, honestly, I am just an investigator. I just have skills. I've learned to deal with them. Officially, I always tell my customers, I'm not here to remove them unless obviously something bad's happening. I'm just the investigator. I produce evidence and we go to the next step.
And what is that next step? Once you investigate,
it depends. How can I put it this way? If I'm physically assaulted by a spirit or a demon, I become personally involved and removed it from the house if I can. There'll be I won't even give it a second chance. That basically I'm going to force it out of the house. If I'm assaulted in any way, shape, or form, or manipulate it, or they will try to manipulate me. If it becomes personal, they get removed immediately. I don't play around with them.
If someone would call you today and said there's disruptions in the house, how fast or easy it is to, you know, get a resolution?
Usually, because I have a regular full-time job, my hobby is the paranormal. Basically, I usually, within the weekend, I'm immediately on top of them to help them out that weekend. I can't do it during the week because I have a regular job.
What is your basic fee for a service?
I don't charge.
Really?
The only time I have contemplated charging was I had a couple of clients who called me from a foreign country. They're the only times where I would have had to charge them because, you know, the distance involved and, you know, I really would have to definitely get plane tickets and stuff like that. Basically, I'm very careful in selecting my customers also because I've dealt with people who are how can I put it? Not above the board and not to be trusted. Some of them have backgrounds that are criminal. And, you know, I have to take care of my safety as well. So every case has to be looked at individually. And since I'm a soloist, I have to pick my cases, you know what I mean, very carefully. Since it's just a part-time job.
Anthony Fitzwater, thank you very much for joining me on Something Came from Baltimore today.
Thank you for having me.
Something came from Baltimore.